It's nice to see approximately as many as I expected here. It's very good that there are quite a few of you, so you can be very active and answer the different questions. My name is Henrik Toremark. I am a financial and economic specialist and a project manager working with environmental projects for 10 years. I have been living in Armenia since 2019 and worked more specifically on waste management projects. Firstly for the NGO ISSD, which is dealing with sustainable development and waste management. Hello, Alan. Welcome.
Sorry.
And later on, after my volunteering career, I convinced the company that I was working for, SWECO, a Swedish technical consultancy, to open an office in Yerevan. And since then, I have been working with projects and leading projects in municipal and hazardous waste management in Armenia. Since we are in the university, I should mention that I have a master's in international energy economics. This is my background. So as you can see, I am fully a financial person. I am not very good at engineering solutions and so on. I'm more focused on like the systematic approach and the financial approach. And I think that you will see that in this lecture, that this is what I'm focusing on because this is what I understand. I can also mention that, as you see, there's no, thank you. There is no SWECO logo on my presentation. I want to not be a SWECO representative today because what I'm going to present is not an ingenious like consultancy analysis, the results of it at least. I will share my own experience, my own ideas, my own impressions, and so on. And in this way, I can speak a little bit more freely than if a company would have to be, standing behind what I'm saying. The question that we will focus on today is the question whether Armenia can leapfrog in development of the municipal waste management system through applying best practices from other countries. It is a quite big question, as you all understand, but I think that we will find a good on working on it. An important thing, I just want to make sure what I mean with municipal waste management, because the waste management system is very broad, very big. Municipal waste management in Armenia is the waste management that is carried out by municipalities. It is the collection and treatment of waste from households, from legal entities, can be schools or smaller companies, that is non-hazardous. So we are trying to like scope down on that today. We are not going to talk about industrial waste, hazardous waste, various private initiatives that are existing in parallel with the municipal systems. Not so much about ongoing projects, although I will try to mention them as far as I know about them at least. I will try to have, usually when international experts talk, they speak about like another country, how it works in Sweden. I'm from Sweden. But today I will try to focus on how I understand that it works in Armenia. We'll try to have a Armenia-centric discussion. I think it's more relevant for this setting. And I want you to be interactive. If there is something that I have not explained clearly what it means, or if you have questions, you can always interrupt me. I have a few discussion sessions where I will kind of force you to answer a few questions, but in between that, feel free in any case. Okay, let's get started. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So usually I work as a consultant when we look into a new waste management system. I want to just define what I mean with a waste management system first of all. Consultants like to look into 4 different components of the waste management system. Generation, first of all. And what is then generation? It is when you, if you buy a bottle of water, for instance, you finish it and you throw it away. Then you have generated one piece of waste. Collection, this is a very common sight on Yerevan streets. Collection bins, you throw the waste in the bin and it's collected by a Kamaz truck. At the moment, this is the collection. Then the waste is taken. This depends very much on the country, of course, but there's usually a handling and storage step where the waste is transferred, reloaded into bigger containers. There might be a sorting facility, there might be a storage facility for certain wastes. And then finally, it reaches some sort of treatment. And the treatment can be very different in different countries. Again, from a reuse center to a dump site on a field. And I want to introduce one concept that I will use as the basis for this presentation, and it is the EU Waste Framework Directive. I think everyone who is interested in waste knows this directive quite well, but I want to at least outline what I want to focus on in this directive. The directive is like the legislative umbrella of all waste management legislation in the European Union, and it is relevant for Armenia because Armenia is supposed to take up this directive and other directives through the comprehensive and enhanced partnership agreement between Armenia and the European Union. The main objective of the directive is to prevent and reduce the negative impacts on soil, on air, and on groundwater, on human health from waste management. This is perhaps not so unique in terms of waste legislation, but the other part is more unique. It is that the waste has an explicit purpose of improving the resource efficiency, which means taking care of the resources in the system and gain some sort of value. It is guided by polluter pays principle, which means that the organization or the entity that puts the waste on or puts a product on the market, be that through import or through own production, will also be responsible for treating the product and making sure that it gets off the market or out of the waste system in the end of the product's lifetime. The most famous part of the directive is this triangle, the waste hierarchy, also something that I think many people that work with waste come across very often. But it is quite smart and it's worth to be highlighted over and over again. And it puts a line of priority to the different waste management types that exist according to this directive. And I wanted to just take an example so we understand what we're talking about again. First of all, prevention is the first step. This means that many of you know that it's good to drink approximately 2 liters of water every day. When we realize this, we realize that we have to drink more or less all the time. So we want to bring a bottle of water into the class or into a work session. That means that we go to a supermarket, we find a beautiful bottle of Jermuk, but then the thought comes to us, could I avoid buying this bottle of Jermuk and perhaps buy or take a durable bottle from home instead? Yes, most certainly. And then I decide not to buy my bottle of Jermuk and I avoid this product to be bought, which means that in the long run, that I also don't create the waste, and therefore the waste is prevented. Second option, which is the second most preferred, would be if after all, I decide to buy my bottle of Jermuk, but I decide to reuse it. After I drink it out once, I fill it up in the pulpulak with more water and use it over and over again. At some point, however, which will be the third step, my bottle of water that I have filled up is already getting disgusting. I throw it away, but since I am an aware citizen, I throw it away in a sorted bin, and I make sure that it ends up with a company which has an ambition of recycling this material. If the company finds that the bottle has enough quality, they will recycle it once, twice, perhaps 3 times if it is PET, and the bottle will come back to the market. When there is no hope left of recycling it, and we are at least in an EU context, it's likely that the bottle ends up in a waste incineration plant to burn it and make sure that we get energy out of it, because plastic is made of oil. And finally, if there's nothing else to do, and it still happens in some parts of the European Union, the bottle will end up on a landfill. And the landfill in the EU context, it's quite important to say, is an area that is planned for disposing waste. It means that it has a bottom layer that protects the groundwater and the soil. It means that it's actively operated. It means that it has a gas extraction system, which makes sure that at least some of the gases are not ending up in the air, and has, again, minimal effect, at least as little as it can be from a landfill on the environment and climate. Okay, so this is the overall concepts. Now I want us to just have a snapshot analysis of Armenia, and what I'm saying here is of course my personal impressions or experiences. So I hope that no one gets scared or upset or so on, but we will look at the 4 different steps in Armenia, and we start with the generation. My impression in Armenia is that, for instance, if you're in a supermarket, you're always asked if you want a plastic bag or even the vegetables. There is some quite unsmart practicing, for instance here, very bad in one city, putting 2 vegetables together, which makes it impossible basically to bring your own bag and and avoid this waste. But at the same time, there are also very hopeful habits in Armenia in terms of reusing, for instance, glass jars for pickles, for jams, and so on that are produced at home. So there is a little bit on both, but in general, if you go into regular supermarket, the situation is not super bright, I would say. More could be done. If we move on. Can we wait? Yes. So if we look at the waste hierarchy in Armenian context, we can see that there is quite little prevention. There is some source of reuse. There is also little, but not much recycling. There is no waste incineration plants and so on. And there is no sanitary landfill at the moment. So Armenia, as far as I conclude at least, is below the waste hierarchy already. So we have quite a long way to go to even get into the waste hierarchy to start with, to meet, to start with legislation. Okay, so now I presented this perhaps sad picture of Armenia, and I want to ask around, why do you think that the waste management system is working improperly in Armenia as of today, and what do you think is needed to improve it? Do we have any voluntary people to answer these questions?
You need to educate.
Sorry? Sorry?
You need to educate everyone.
Education, good.
Yes, I agree. I think it's a kind of Soviet Union hangover. Then everybody thinks that someone else should do service for them instead of them.
So no responsibility for it.
Yes,
like the individual doesn't take responsibility.
It's in Moscow, it's in everyone. People think that someone else, not me.
Okay.
In Soviet times, there was a system actually in place. So it's quite different from what was in Soviet times. I kind of happen to know firsthand about Soviet times. I think that the real reason here is that it costs nothing to pollute the country. It's free to pollute.
Yeah.
It has no consequences whatsoever. So it's pure economical, you know?
Yeah. True. Any other ideas?
Yeah, probably the market for the end resources is very small.
Yes. Alan?
Connected to the idea of there's no cost to paying people. People are not ready to pay for a clean environment. They just know there's the mentality that I have to pay for this, and it's going to cost me. It's okay to pay 10 drums more per month, or 100 drums per month, or 1,000 drums per month. It's alien, and you often hear, well, it's that valuable, why don't you just take it and make money off of the plastic and all that. There's a very poor understanding of the economics and the value of it.
Yes.
Who are not quite ready to pay taxes as well. So they pay them because they have to.
Yeah, so you have to find the right
It's a matter of, yeah,
the right mechanisms.
enforcement.
People are, okay.
Yeah, but also some infrastructure would help, of course.
Infrastructure.
My biggest blame is not the people, it's more the government as an organization. I don't know a single country where energy, waste is managed by the will of the people. You have to essentially organize.
And I would like to continue that idea. Some punishment for people is kind of, I know that legally there is some kind of punishment, but no one controls that. I don't know, if you approach a policeman on the street and tell him, I just saw a man littering, what would that policeman do? Probably say nothing.
They will find you.
Probably.
I also think there may be some lack of communication from the government side to people. They don't know why you are doing this, why they have to like put the plastic in the plastics box and etc. And what bad impact it has on the environment and their lives. So maybe awareness and communication problems.
Yes. Okay, good. I think we can finish the presentation here because this is pretty much what I wanted to talk about. I can see that we have a very crowd that has quite a lot of insights and have been thinking before about these questions. What I usually hear is that we have to have recycling, or we have to have technologies in place, something like this, that an approach where people believe that technologies will save all their problems. This is my point. It's not really the way. But in short, we have lack of communication awareness, education measures, lack of individual responsibility, lack of a system approach, that no economic incentives not to pollute. There's a very small market for end resources, even if we manage to recycle materials. There is a low willingness to pay, or a mentality saying that we should not pay for this because it's not our responsibility. And there's a lack of infrastructure and a lack of enforcement of legislation. It summarizes quite well what I wanted to come to. Actually, I thought that there would be more of students here, so, but I'm sure there are a few students as well. We'll continue. I working with this for now 4 years in Armenia. I keep thinking, well, how can we improve the system? And I have come to the conclusion, which seems like you at least partly have as well, that I think that there are six fundamental components that can build a sustainable waste management system. And what I mean with the sustainable waste management system is the system where actors are working. These actors may be investors, it may be waste management companies, it may be public authorities of different kinds, and it is the individuals, at least the citizens. So I see that the 6 different components would first of all be a modern legislative framework and enforcement measures, make sure that it is actually improved. Organizations that know what their responsibilities are and are not. Organizations that have, first of all, competence to carry out the task, but also resources, enough money or enough people to do a good job in the field. You would need transparent monitoring and data collection to have available information for making decisions. Source separation, at least as a very minimum, into dry and wet waste, so that you have at least one stream out of unpolluted waste materials that can be sold, or that can be recycled, that can be treated in one or another way. You need to have continued financing. It's not enough with one huge investment at one point that will save all the problems. There also has to be financing from different sources, usually, for operating the system, maintaining, carry out repairs, pay the employees a decent amount for working with the question. And finally, and one of the most important questions, I think, is to have citizens that are informed, aware, curious, understanding how they can contribute to this sustainable waste management system. If we have all these 6 components, it will create an environment, a business environment, where it is possible to make informed decisions, where it is possible to make a predictable investment, more or less. I don't think that is the case in Armenia at the moment. So if we have this, it would be possible. And it may seem a little bit unrealistic given where we are now, but I don't think it is unrealistic at all, if we look a little bit in the longer term. If we look at Armenia today, there is a waste legislation, waste of law, and different other legal acts that are managing this issue. There is a clear, it's clearly the responsibility of the municipalities or organizations owned by the municipalities to deal with this waste. In general, I think that they are quite knowledgeable, but not always having the resources needed to deal with waste in a good way. I would say, unfortunately, when it comes to data collection and information available, there is extremely little data available on almost anything. When we make our analysis, we have to make very many assumptions, a lot more than in similar countries. And this is a big problem. There is some source separation in Yerevan already now for metal, plastic, paper, glass. There is, well, I'm sure you know how the system works for waste tariffs. There is a cap in the legislation of 400 drums per person and month. I would say that it is a little hard to finance a system with those money. I was just comparing to my parents' house today. I was not supposed to make any comparisons with Sweden, but my parents, in a direct comparison in Sweden, pay 28 times more every month for the waste collection and waste treatment. Of course, not completely comparable, but at least gives some perspective on the difference in the different systems. Most communities are charging between 100 and 250 drams per month and person, and it's of course not very much. And finally, I would say that with the exception of you and a bunch of other people in Armenia, citizens are in generally not very well informed about environmental issues. And I think this is a fact that also makes the situation difficult. So I think there are some things that, as you mentioned, Alan, that the state can do, but there are also many things that citizens have to do to make the system work out and become more sustainable. I know, for instance, that American University is working with SWECO financing on finding a way to introduce the extended producer's responsibility in Armenia. And I think this would create a very good, like, systematic solution to many of the problems. Are you all familiar with the extended producer's responsibility? Fairly well.
I don't think so.
Okay. So well, I will call EPR, yes. Difficult to say every time. The EPR is a legislative system that is organized under the Waste Framework Directive. It puts the responsibility for waste with the producers. So if I am a company that imports or produces goods and put on the market, for instance, like the EU market, or well, it's actually managed on national level, but on the Swedish market, I will have to take the responsibility for making sure that there is sufficient infrastructure for collecting and treating this waste in the end. There are many good things with the system. First of all, that you get the explicit focus on resource efficiency. The organizations that are responsible for dealing with the waste will also have an interest or a clear incentive in taking care of the waste afterwards, because they have to do this under the legislation, otherwise they get punished. And it's somehow quite easy to it's easier to control and enforce as well than if you have many different legal acts. It creates clear ownership of the waste. This is a very important question as well. It takes away a little bit of, or quite a lot, if it's properly done, of the responsibility and the weight from the shoulders of the municipalities, and puts this responsibility with producer responsibility organizations instead. It also creates organizations, so it's quite easy to focus the resources and the competence to bigger organizations to deal with the waste in a more effective way. It forces the organizations that are involved in the system to report data and monitor data on a regular basis. And this, at least with some time, creates a databases and information basis, which makes it possible to make informed decisions, which is absolutely necessary. And finally, it creates an incentive to the responsible organization to set up a good system for source separation of waste. And the EPRs also, of course, at least to some extent, forces the responsible organizations to inform citizens of what they're doing. It's in their own interest to inform people, so the people understand that what is happening with their waste, that it actually gets, say, recycled or reused in the end. It creates this good financial base, because the producers are allowed to put a little bit higher prices, or they have to do it, to the consumers. So the consumers are paying the price for the system, and this is very much in line with the polluter pays principle, that if I am buying a carton of a package of milk, for instance, and I pay, say, 1 or 2% of the product value extra in to make sure that the waste is taken care of after, then I am actually the polluter who is paying for it. And finally,
It's a fair system.
yeah, it is a very fair system, and this is what the polluter pays principle is all about, that if you pollute, you should also pay for this. It's not that easy in reality, but to some extent at least.
And just, we might want to highlight, it's not all about packaging materials. Electronic waste, it could be cars, automobiles. It could be,
Of course, but now I'm speaking about the municipal waste, so I would say the main focus, yeah, for sure. There is a lot of household hazardous wastes, at least that can, as well, that can be covered by extended EPRs. But I think this is a different story. But surely this is a good way to deal with different types of waste, both hazardous and non-hazardous. And it's, well, it does not only have to focus on households and consumer waste and so on, it can focus on other types of wastes as well. So, but this is what the legislation does, and this is what we can expect from the government, hopefully, or from you guys at AUA, if you find a way to introduce it. But there are many things that we can do ourselves as well. And I really want to emphasize those things because very often we complain about that the government doesn't give any information. If you go to one of the yellow or the blue boxes, you have to kind of open this lid to see what is supposed to be inside it. It's not like perfectly done yet, you can say. There's no, you don't get any information in your post box if you have one, or on your door or whatever. There's very little information actually being disseminated. And we complain, but we do nothing, most of us. But you can inform yourself as well, because there is quite a lot of information out there. You can ask Harut, you can ask one of all the NGOs that are dealing with this. You can reach out to your one municipality, for example, and you will get some answers. And you will be able to make more aware choices. For example, like when I would back to the milk, if you buy milk, let me ask you, let's say here we have one glass bottle.
It's got
Yeah, it's actually that. Okay, whatever.
looks like the amount.
Yeah, it was supposed to be but now it gives so big. Okay, say it's Yerenjan. And then we have this like Mariana, very tasty milk, but in a fake Tetra Pak. And we have a PET plastic bottle from Ponilat with milk. If you think away about the taste and the perceived quality of these products, the fat level and so on in it, which one would you choose if you are a resource efficient consumer? Yeah, why? Now, why is a glass bottle good? It's the most expensive one to recycle.
You can reuse it at home.
Yes, you can reuse it at home. That's good. And actually, Yaremjan is even reusing their own bottles. They collect the bottles and they reuse them again. So I agree. Glass is the best. What is the second best one?
You would have to do a life cycle because there's no, but
I'm not here as SWECO today. I'm here as myself.
washing it and water use and so on and so forth.
Yeah, but you will have to wash all the three of them. But okay.
I would suggest landfilling better than.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying.
But like, did you reuse the glass bottle? You anyway have to clean the other two as well before you do anything with them. Yeah.
You can
Okay,
recycle
well-
plastic. You don't throw plastic, actually.
Yeah, I mean, there's all this costs and benefits to each option. I think we need to compare them with each other.
Yes. Well, yes, you are
Glass is-
completely right.
Because, glass is heavier and so transportation cost increases and so on. So there's a number of factors.
Yeah, that's very true.
And the cost of production of glass water also.
But they reuse it. If you return this, I don't know about Katani, but if it's Yerimjan, you can return the bottle to the store. They will reuse it. So they will not.
Yerimjan is same as Yerimian.
I think it's Yerimjan actually.
I don't know if it's Yerimjan.
I'm very sorry. Yeah, it's coming from me. I'm not meaning it. Okay.
Give it time,
No,
give it
they
time.
don't.
Good branding actually proposed to the area.
Yeah, I don't want to market a certain brand here, but I give it a fake
Why do you
brand.
say this is fake Tetra Pak? Is it like missing one of the layers? You mean?
No, it's just another company than Tetra Pak that is doing it. Tetra Pak is a company that's
You
producing
mean,
Tetra
yes.
Paks. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
one of the
I
coffee
see.
brands from
Right.
that are providing them. Okay, but I would say without doing the life cycle analysis,
Yeah.
I'm not sure that the life cycle analysis would show the same, of course. I would say that it's good to reuse, first of all, because now we're speaking from the point of view of the waste hierarchy, and we are simplifying, of course, very much. Otherwise, we're waiting for this life cycle analysis later on, so we can make better options. But until we have them, to make the most informed decision that we can make is, first of all, reuse by using the glass bottle. Then we take the recycling alternative, which is the polylat. We can easily take off the label and put it in a separated bin for PET, and this is likely to be recycled if we do this. And then finally, the Tetra Pak, even if, okay, the real Tetra Pak at least makes a lot of advertisement in Sweden, for instance, that It's made out of plastic paper and aluminium, and you can basically put it in water and like stir a little bit, and it turns up in 3 different materials. The magic packaging product. It's just in reality so much of the
Like, why doesn't the milk doesn't do the same thing?
mysterious, yes. But in any case, in Armenia, we can be sure that nothing like this, no magic will happen to the milk cartoon. You put it in a bin and it goes to landfill for sure. So if we, from just very simplified waste hierarchy point of view, we should choose the milk in the
I would
glass.
suspect that the plastic would go to the landfill as well. Well, I do separate the waste, and I don't, well, I walk extra, I don't know, 800 meters to those bloody colored bins to put them in, but I'm not absolutely sure they don't end up, you know, mixed up together somewhere in the Barashan.
No, they
I'm not
don't.
sure about that
No,
at
they
all.
don't.
Hmm?
No, they don't actually.
Are
They
you
go
sure
to
about that?
recycling, yes.
They are
Okay,
collected by
Even if they
So
go
it wasn't
to
all for nothing, that's good.
Even if they,
Still, just to
Even
make
if
sure
they
that
go
I'm
to the-
doing my part. just
right,
For
but
that.
even if they go to the landfill, unfortunately, from landfill, they still will go to the recycling, yeah, collect.
There's a market. There's
Okay,
scale.
yeah.
That's good. Good
I
to know.
recommend all of you to visit the landfill at 3 o'clock. Don't ask me how I am.
But yes, in any case, on this, with this picture is somehow what I wanted to illustrate as well. That I mean, this is yesterday. I took this photo, perhaps it's because it's 1st of May, and I don't know if the waste trucks don't work on this day. But a lot of people want to recycle. This is for sure. They're actually, and first I thought they have just dumped general waste here, but we were looking a bit like in detail in this, and there is not that much like wrongly placed waste. So this shows that even if we don't believe fully in the system yet, we have to start somewhere. And we can make this extra effort. It's not a huge effort to choose like the until we have better information at least. We try to choose the most resource efficient packaging if it's about this. We make the extra effort of washing it, we walk the extra 800 meters, we put it in a bin, and at least the municipality or the company that is working for the municipality will see that there is an interest in separating the waste. And if we do this well, if we see that someone else is leaving regular mixed household waste in the wrong container, we tell them to please put it in the green one instead. This will overall, in some kind of collective effort, at least create a basis for the system. But then, of course, for everyone who's not interested in recycling, I don't think that it looks like this will not really encourage anyone to sort waste. But then finally, of course, most important thing from at least financial point of view, someone has to pay for all of this, of course. We have to, if we are not paying today, or if we don't know if we are paying, we have to look into how we make sure to pay the fees or the tariffs for waste. Currently, it's not that much money. I was making a quick analysis, and as I understand that people in Yerevan, according to our average expenditures per person and month, would be able to pay up to 670 dram per month and person. Sorry?
It would cover only the transportation costs, by the way.
Oh yeah, you have looked into it.
Yes.
I can imagine, given that they collect 2 times a day.
With the current efficiency rate, like, yes, it costs 600 to 700.
It's per person or
Yeah,
per house?
They would to cover not to subsidize the whole operation, they would need to collect 600 to 700 drums
In Yerevan or
per person per month. Yeah, instead of current 2 household.
Household of 4, it would be 2,400.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm. Right.
It's very interesting. Okay, so do your part, pay, be the good 90% in the system.
There's another option, actually. Why don't we buy products by weight, not packed? For example, I have this close friend of mine, he's even more concerned about the environment than I am, and he comes up with these ideas every time. And his question is, why can't we buy, for example, the sour cream, by weight anywhere? If they need their marketing, they can easily have their, advertising on billboards, on electronic boards or something. But then there's only one, this, what is it called? The tap or something.
Dispenser.
Dispenser, you just fill it up like we're trying to do that. I'm trying to do that whenever possible, but sometimes it's just not possible. You just can't have like sour cream or some other products by weight. I can do that with eggs, for example. I bought once there's this factory in Armenia, it makes sells eggs in dozens. There's a plastic container for a dozen eggs. I bought it once, and I'm reusing it every time I go to buy eggs. And if I'm in a supermarket and I don't have this container with me, that means I have no eggs for today. So I'll leave it for the next time. So
Yes.
I mean, I'm trying to do whatever I can, but sometimes there's no, opportunity to do that. For example, I remember this surprise girl. I was trying to buy pickled peppers or something, and I brought the exact same container she's selling them in, and I'm saying, put in my container. Why? We have our own. No, don't give me another container. Put it in my container, please. I brought it specially. This is kind of, it has to be some kind of maybe, again, it comes down to legislation probably. The legislation should enforce that kind of behavior, not only on part of the consumers, but also on part of traders, of retail sellers, of producers. For example, don't just sell, packed sour cream. Okay, sometimes sell occasional. I don't know what is it called, bottle or
Yeah,
whatever.
but I'm sure they would do it if someone actually demanded it.
But that's part of EPR, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, EPR can bring to that with reform.
We can
eventually.
dramatically reduce that plastic waste at all. So maybe then the problem wouldn't be so acute with the costs of collecting and recycling.
Yes.
Let's
But-
start producing that in the first place. Well, stop producing.
But you are talking about big factories, right? Because I know that if you buy from the stores where villagers sell their
Villagers,
things.
yes.
Yes, it's just you can even
Factory,
return.
I'm talking about factory produce. Okay, I'm an urban, person.
Yes,
I go to the supermarket. I would love to, have an opportunity to buy in a supermarket, just filling up my own plastic container. I would happily bring there with me. So I would bother enough, to bring that with me if there would be anyone there to fill it up.
I think it wouldn't cost even producer. I mean, it would make their costs less.
Less, of
It would
course,
cost them
yes,
anything
because it
just to
costs
have
money
the
to have all that equipment
packaging
to,
and-
to pack.
Right.
I think, comparing what we have here versus at least the US or some parts of Europe, Europe is more efficient. But we do much more bulk selling. We're doing less and less of it. But if you go to the legumes, the nuts, the seeds, it's all bulk there. In the US, it'll be all packaged unless you go to Whole Foods or whatever, some expenses. Right?
Mhm.
So I think we should recognize what we're doing right, encourage that to continue as opposed to, I think there's a lot of, and also things change, attitudes change. Like 5 years ago, if you ask no plastic bag, I don't want plastic bag, everyone would look at you strange to the salesperson. But what do you mean no plastic bag? But now it's very common. So I think things change very fast, and I also believe we're at the tipping point here in terms of awareness of these issues, and we should kind of use that and push it forward.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
May I ask a couple of things?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, first of all, I wanted to ask if, for example, I put in the right places, right? I recycle, and then someone puts food on my paper or on my plastic. Is that batch like spoiled? We cannot use it anymore?
It doesn't have to be like that, but in general, I mean, this is the reason why we should mix the wet waste from the dry waste. Wet waste is waste and dry waste is the recyclable packaging, for example. With paper, it's quite difficult. Might not bring away the full value of it, but most of the value. If it's only one like open bag of food, perhaps not the whole batch is spoiled.
Yeah, but if someone
so-
spilled coffee on,
Yeah, but if it's coffee on plastic, it's not that bad because the plastic is somehow a little bit dirty. It's possible to wash, at least if there is a washing facility, of course. But with paper, it can be an issue. Is
okay. And are you aware why this Ararat place doesn't work? Like the sorting place, right? You get everything there. Why?
I think they got. It's again this issue that I think the UN gave a grant. They built it, quite good grant.
That's why.
No, but whatever, it's like I already said is that it's important to have continuous financing in operations as well. If you give like a really nice big sorting plant to like a municipal waste organization, a communal department, for example, and they don't have the resource, I mean, they don't have
Or
enough men to
competencies.
operate it. Yeah, competences maybe to do it in a good way. It has to be like a long-term investment. If you do something that like that, you cannot just build a beautiful
Yes.
sorting plants and then hope that it works.
Yeah, but it wasn't a beautiful sorting plant, so it worked.
I've not visited it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be a specialist, even an engineer, to immediately appreciate that it's not gonna work in 5 days, for instance. Really. One, and then
This is
but
an RF
the other,
facility.
the other reason is, the main reason is actually that this facility was supposed to sort the mixed waste, not unsorted, because there are sorting facilities that sort primary sorted waste, like
Yeah,
this waste should be sorted again in the secondary sorting facilities. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so that
because
we
this
avoid
waste
this
contains a lot of
Yeah.
like wrong items, it's a secondary sorting to purify it, like to, but that one was not, it was not meant for sorted waste, it was meant for mixed waste, which is the most inefficient way to, it's a waste of money, waste of resources. It doesn't work anywhere in the world, actually.
Yeah, because
And
I was
also the
thinking,
design of the facility was the stupidest thing that I ever really seen. But funny on that.
really it would be good if we could learn from that for the next facility.
Yeah,
and
this
get
is
to know
how not to design any sort of facility.
Yes.
Or organized tours.
Yes.
Like Henrik's colleagues, I don't know, they were just shocked. They were laughing for 20 minutes.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And what is happening with this facility now? Is it like locked or?
Yeah, it's locked.
So
No,
waste of
Guys, it's a pool, concrete made pool.
Oh, this is the concrete pool, actually.
Yeah, it's a concrete
Oh, I see.
pool.
Okay, I
Yeah,
think that was
it's a concrete pool of, I don't know, maybe like, okay, 100 cubic meters. That will fill out in a week, or okay, in 2 weeks, okay, in 2 months, okay, in 1 year. But then what? It's a concrete pool, and there's a room of this size with a like conveyor belt, and you have to sort like recyclables, and the rest will go to this concrete pool. And then what? And everything is like, it's a solid structure. It's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know, your kids would laugh to that system. I mean, just ridiculous.
Okay, I think I will just wrap up now.
Anyway, yeah.
This is a bit of a side issue. We can rant
Don't
about this
mention
later on.
Ararat facilities.
I mentioned it as like I tried to find any example of something
Like,
that has.
really, sorry, but Nubarashen landfill actually operates much more efficiently.
I'm sure they sort out a lot more waste.
Yeah, because they can sort, I don't know, 500 tons per day.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Okay.
That's encouraging.
oh yeah, also can we do without landfills? Like, can we avoid that 5/5 like layer of this pyramid, or it's impossible, especially in Armenia?
I mean, so I will wrap up, and then
Yes,
we will come back
yes,
to the
yes.
question, I think, because that's important, of course. But in general, so what my conclusion is that the most important and first thing, and what has to come from the government, is this like overall perspective, and this is where we can take best practice from other countries. For instance, the EPRs. This is at least a method that has proven to work quite well in Europe. For instance, in Sweden, less than 1% of the municipal waste is landfilled. I think it's even now under 0.5%. So some of it can work, but there will still be a little bit of landfill. And if we have a situation where we have like for the actors in the system again, I guess mainly investors or companies that are going to operate in it, if we have understandable rules, understandable roles, we have access to information, we have access to financing, we have access to waste streams that are sufficiently well sorted so we can retain a value out of it, and we have citizens who support us and are curious about helping in the system, we will have a predictable environment with sufficiently good information for making investment decisions. And if this happens, it's very likely that we'll be able to attract an investor who can actually build something, and it's possible that we can attract innovation and these technologies to Armenia. But I think that all other things have to be in place somehow before, or at least in parallel, to that this system works out. That is my conclusion. So if we go back to the question if Armenia can leapfrog in its waste management, we can say yes or no. Let's raise hands and we'll see us for the statistics. Who thinks yes? Please raise your hands.
Depends on how.
Or yeah, okay. And no? Do we have any no's? You don't believe? And we okay, 2 no's, but it's quite good because it's hard for me as well. I would say no, because this is not a quick fix. No, not as fast as many people seem to hope or believe. But at the same time, yes, if these fundamental preconditions are in place, I think that it's possible to reach there one day. Usually when we hold these like Sweden presentations, we note the fact that it has taken Sweden to come to these levels of like landfilling of 0.5% has taken like 50 years of conscious, very serious work in developing new waste management systems. It does say, if you look at Poland or Estonia or Baltic states that have had a similar situation to Armenia, but have gotten enormous amounts of financial support from the European Union, perhaps it takes 20-25 years to come to a similar level. And Armenia can learn from all these best practices, for instance, EPR, and how what has worked well and what has not worked so well with the implementation of that in various European countries, with your help again, and hopefully with other organizations as well. And I think to some extent that it's possible to perhaps not leapfrog, but at least develop a bit faster based on the experience. So that was my conclusion.